Have you ever wondered why African nations struggle to defend themselves despite spending billions on military equipment? The answer lies not in what they are buying, but in who they are buying it from. For decades, African security has been held hostage by foreign powers, but something just happened in Nigeria that could change everything. In April 2025, Nigeria unveiled something that got global powers nervously looking over their shoulders: the continent's first indigenous attack drones. But this isn't about flying machines, it's about something that's far more bigger that no one is talking about. What if I told you that Nigeria's drones aren't just weapons, they are declarations of independence? And what if this single development could transform completely the relationship that Africa has with the West, China and Russia forever? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I will reveal why this breakthrough matters more than anyone realizes. Who is really threatened by it, and the shocking truth about why global powers have kept Africa so dependent for far too long. Let's start with a story that exposes the brutal reality of Africa's security dependence. In 2023, Burkina Faso needed to launch an urgent counter-terrorism operation against militants threatening 2 villages. But there was a problem. They didn't have enough armored vehicles. So they did what many African nations are forced to do. They borrowed equipment from neighboring Niger. By the time the vehicles finally arrived, the militants had already moved on. The delay cost dozens of lives, and 2 villages were lost. Now, this isn't an isolated incident. According to research, a staggering 75% of counter-terrorism operations in the Sahel are stalled or completely derailed by procurement delays. Did you hear that? 75% of counter-terrorism operations are stalled or completely derailed by procurement delays. But why does this happen? There are 3 main reasons that powerful nations don't want you to know about. First, we have deliberate delays. When Africa buys weapons, delivery time is mysteriously often extended. Now, we saw this example when Nigeria bought Tucano planes from the US, something that could take weeks. It took 7 years for the American government to deliver Tucano jets to Nigeria, who were in that situation fighting against Boko Haram. And so Boko Haram continued giving havoc to Nigeria during that period. What was delaying the delivery of these jets? And this is not an isolated incident. It happens all the time when Africa asks for weapons from the West. Sometimes you wonder why these terrorists flourish when the state clearly has an advantage over them. Second, political strings. Every bullet, every drone, every rifle comes with political conditions. We will sell you these weapons if and only if you vote for us at the UN, or only if you give us access to your resources, or only if you align with our foreign policy. As one African defense minister puts it bluntly, why must our sovereignty be negotiated for bullets? Third, corruption and mismatched equipment. Up to 40% of arms exports to the Middle East and Africa involve corruption. Foreign powers sell equipment designed for European winters to African nations fighting in the Sahel heat and humidity, where they quickly fail. But here is what you need to understand. This isn't incompetence, it is strategy. A dependent Africa is a controllable Africa. And the control of Africa means control of the continent's vast resources. The rare earth minerals powering your smartphone, the oil fueling the global economies, the agricultural land feeding millions. In a minute, I will show you why Nigeria's breakthrough changes everything. But first, let me explain to you what actually happened. On April 3rd, 2025, in an unassuming facility in Abuja, Nigeria's military and Bright UAS unveiled something extraordinary: the continent's first indigenous manufactured attack drones, complete with bombs and missiles. This was a military-grade weapon system designed, built, and tested entirely within Nigeria. A system that can track insurgents, protect oil infrastructure, and respond to security threats without asking permission from anyone. General Christopher Musa, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, didn't mince words about what this means. He said,
"In a world where the global politics surrounding the procurement of advanced military hardware, particularly combat drones, have become more intricate, countries that do not produce such solutions are made to face bureaucratic bottlenecks and diplomatic hurdles in acquiring these critical platforms. We are facing such challenges directly. So we know what it means. If you don't produce what you need, you'll be held whenever you need them, even with your money at hand."
Let that sink in. For decades, Nigeria has had the money to buy advanced military hardware, but has always been denied access or forced to wait for years due to bureaucratic processes and diplomatic hurdles. Do you really see a bit of contrast in this situation when we talk about Ukraine? Sometimes before they announce that they're going to send some weapons to Ukraine, the weapons are already in Ukraine. But in the case of Africa, we need to wait for years. I gave an example earlier, 7 years. Within that time, what insurgency wouldn't have eaten up your security? The real reason behind this crisis is something no one is talking about, but we will get to that in a moment. What makes this drone program truly revolutionary isn't the technology itself, but what it represents. Imagine you're a farmer whose only plow belongs to your neighbor. No matter how urgent your need to plant, you must wait until your neighbor is ready to lend it to you, and they might demand part of your harvest in return. That's been Africa's security dilemma. But what happens when you decide to build your own? Nigeria's indigenous drone program creates 4 immediate game changers. The first one is swift response to threats. We all know that Nigeria is so rich in oil, but then Nigeria can hardly give a good account of the oil that it has. We have all seen oil-rich countries in the Middle East. These countries are extremely rich. Qatar is rich, Saudi Arabia is rich, and many others around that area. They are all rich, but we aren't seeing this same amount of wealth being demonstrated in Nigeria because many people steal this oil, and in the process of stealing the oil, a lot of waste is done. And finally, the Nigerian oil doesn't really serve the Nigerian public. Also, concerning the terrorists in the north, Nigeria is going to have sufficient assets to monitor these groups and bring peace to these regions and hence economic development. The second game changer is economic independence. Local production creates jobs, develops skills, and keeps money within Nigeria's economy instead of flowing overseas. The program has already generated over 300 jobs. This project has just started and it has already developed over 300 jobs. This means that if this complex matures more than the way it is right now, it's going to bring in thousands of jobs into the Nigerian economy. The third game changer that these systems or program is going to bring into the Nigerian ecosystem is customized solutions. These drones are designed specifically for Nigeria's unique challenges, tracking bandits in dense forests, monitoring oil pipelines in the delta, and operating in the specific climate conditions of West Africa. The fourth game changer is regional influence. As Nigeria develops its capability, it positions itself to become a security provider rather than a security consumer. But here is what makes powerful nations nervous. This isn't just about Nigeria. It's about setting a precedent that can make other African nations follow. Now, I want to share a new way of looking at this breakthrough that you won't hear from anywhere else. Think of Africa's security situation like a house. For decades, African countries have been living in a house where someone else holds the keys. You want to fix the window? You ask for someone else permission. You want to lock your door against intruders? You ask permission from the landlord. Nigeria building its own drones is like finally making its own keys. And not just any keys. Master keys that could eventually open every door in the house. The numbers tell the story. Nigeria's indigenous drone program reduced surveillance cost by up to 60% compared to imported Turkish Bayraktars. If shared regionally, this technology could create a unified defense network across the continent. Joint ventures between African nations could cut procurement costs by 30 to 50%, eliminating corruption that plagues foreign arms deals. But there is something even more profound here. For generations, Africa has been seen as a continent of consumers rather than creators, of problems rather than solutions. This drone program flips that narrative on its head. We can build world-class technology. We can solve our own problems. We don't need to emigrate to innovate. As President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda emphasizes, this isn't just about security, it's about national pride and economic transformation. So, what is the game-changing takeaway from Nigeria's breakthrough? Africa needs what I call the African Defense Production Alliance, a NATO-style coalition for defense industrialization. And here is how it will work. 1. Pooled funding. If African nations contribute just 1% of their GDP to a continental defense fund, they would unlock $20 billion per year for research and development. 2. Regional hubs. Nigeria specializes in drones, while Egypt specializes in aerospace and South Africa in armored cars. South Africa made one of the best armored cars back then in days. The MRAP that we know today of the US Army that is almost indestructible, its design was copied from South Africa's armored car industry. So Africa has a lot to offer, and coming together, they will make something very powerful. 3. Strategic partnership. Instead of predatory deals with global powers, negotiate no-strings technology transfer with middle powers like Turkey, India, or Brazil. The old African proverb says this best: the lion does not borrow claws. Africa's path to security sovereignty lies not in rejecting all foreign partnerships, but in mastering the balance between collaboration and self-reliance. Nigeria's drone program isn't just a technological achievement. It is the first step towards rewriting Africa's security narrative. So the question now is, will other countries follow Nigeria's example, or will powerful interests work to undermine this push for independence? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Africa should develop its own military-industrial complex? What other sectors should prioritize local production? Share your perspective in the comments below. If you found value in this analysis, like this video so that it reaches more people on the African continent and beyond. Hit the notification bell to join our community of forward-thinking minds, exploring the hidden forces shaping our world. And if you are passionate about African development, check this video that talks about manufacturing businesses that you can start up in Africa. And until next time, this is Asongwed Luis with the Strategic Lens, helping you to see beyond the headlines.